Hey, friend. When you bet on God and believe in yourself, all things are possible. I'm Ashley White, the host of Joy on the Journey podcast, a weekly podcast all about defining, finding, and maintaining joy on the journey of life. I have promised incredible interviews with women that inspire me. Today's guest is Micole Williams. Micole is a writer and filmmaker. She owns Will Empower Films, which specializes in empowering people to choose life. She intentionally empowers indie, Black, Indigenous, and people of color in small towns and outside of entertainment hubs to activate their inner creative and to find the courage to tell their own distinct stories and to greenlight themselves. Her first mini documentary, 365 Days in LA, earned the Best Web Series Pilot Award at the Beyond Hollywood International Film Fest in May of 2023. Y'all, I'm so excited to have Micole on the podcast. Hey, ma'am.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited as well.
Me too. So, the podcast is all about defining, finding, and maintaining joy on the journey of life. So, if you had to define joy, how would you do that?
Defining joy for me would simply be it's courageous, it's a choice, it's a celebration. And I think of joy as being transformational when you really tap into it. So,
Hmm. In what ways has joy transformed your life?
it's funny. I am not on a regular basis a joy seeker, if that makes sense. So I really kind of was stretched even with that definition. But if I were to put it into terms, that's how I see it. That's what I've experienced. A lot of what has happened with me is I'm kind of a person that's like, what do I need to do? How productive have I been? And then I don't really think about did I enjoy that? As much as, did I take care of business? So
Mhm.
I think I'm in a season now where joy is more of a priority than it has been. So to be able to answer that question is kind of funny. I think that's what I'm seeking more now.
Mm. Have you ever been in moments or had experiences where even when you weren't seeking it, you didn't feel it?
Oh yeah, I think just I would think throughout life. I think joy for me comes when I am being creative or when I am actually just being. So if it's not that I'm able to naturally be that, that can be kind of a autopilot situation. I'm going to give my best because that's just what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
But yes, in any season, I think we all have little spurts of where we have to motivate ourselves. And that's why I think it's just so important to know what your motivators are, what can keep you in the game. Because, yeah, I think life comes with more of that percentage of things not being so always joyful. You know what I mean?
Mhm. So if you had to think of your motivators, have you identified what those are for you?
Oh, yeah. I think they've pretty much been the same throughout my life. What's been consistent is utilizing that right brain and coming up with a world that I think is, if not better than this world, at least it's just something that entertains me. I'm
Mm.
always looking for things that I'm not even looking. Sometimes they find me like I'm just amused by life and amused by the people in life. So I think my motivators are if I can carve out time to process what I've experienced and how can I, chronicle that and make it meaningful for not just me, but maybe other people.
Mhm.
And that could come in the form of writing. It could come in the form of just telling us another story to somebody, something I had heard earlier, conversations. And it also comes in the form of making things. I love putting my hands to something And I used to make jewelry. I don't do that anymore because it's very time consuming.
Mm,
But it brought a lot of joy to my college life and my school life. I kind of always have done it as early as middle school, I think, now that I think about it. So I think just, just being around people you love, people you care for, and people who care for you, all these things are necessary. And I think that's where I'm going to be the most joyful. And last but not least, I like being around thinkers. I think even with being in education so long, I find that it's a good place for me because I think it keeps me very young at heart. You just
mhm.
kind of light up when you hear young people finding their way. And, there are a lot of challenges that you have to work through with them, and they
Yeah.
want to sometimes take the easy way out. But I think what's so a joyous occasion for me is seeing that light bulb go off in their heads where they're like they got it for themselves, they're finding it out for themselves, and that type of thing. So it could come from a lot of different places.
That's good. The second phase of the podcast is all about your journey. And Micole, your journey has been on paths that some people could only believe in TV or in movies or on TV. So, if you were an outsider, right, taking a view of your life, what would most surprise you?
That's a good question. Okay, so if I'm an outsider, what would surprise me about what I'm doing?
What you've accomplished?
I don't know how to answer that, but I think the first thing that's coming to mind is how do you not go crazy? Because like to be real, if I'm looking from the outside, I'm gonna put the only way I could do that is go off of what I've heard people say to me.
Okay.
And I'm like the thing I hear the most that people are shocked about is like you're in so many different rooms. Like so
Mm,
if you're in so many different industries and rooms and you're one person, how are you able to, I guess, manage that, and how are you able to be yourself?
mm,
What does that mean? Are you being yourself if you're in all these different spaces? Because
mhm,
people are always kind of skeptical of if somebody is working different jobs, different
yeah.
types of jobs. I think that their first thought is, that's not what everybody else is doing, so how is it, why is this happening, how is this happening? So I would just probably think that.
So where would you rank moving to LA in 2021 on the list of your most surprising joy-filled journey moves?
Oh my God, I think that might work. I want to say that's probably at the top, and it's probably going to stay at the top.
Okay.
It took a lot. It took a lot. You can't do that kind of stuff all the time. It kind of comes in lifetimes or decades or something. You got to space that out because that took a lot. So it's at the top of my list, definitely.
Got it. And as you mentioned, you were a veteran educator prior to making this life-changing move to LA a couple years ago. Where did you find the courage to just say, I'm going for it?
I don't really move until I know that I have God's approval or backing because I don't play that game. So I really knew early on in life when I was younger, I felt like I would be moving East Coast, New York, or, I wanted to do that after high school. And something in my mom's spirit was like, no, I don't, I really would like for you to stay closer. And I'm just a mama's girl, so I did that. And then 9/11 happened afterwards. So
Mm,
see, I knew something was good. And I say that because with that experience, I thought about doing it after college because now I can make that determination. But then I felt, with buying like a home and getting settled, I love that. That was the most joyous thing I could think of at that time, just making a home for myself. And as a writer, I thought that that was just, and it has been just a great experience. So with that, just to be able to leave everything, it really was just God's movement. I really have been in a place of discipline in general, but I got
mm,
more discipline because the pandemic kicked my butt. I was really health wise challenged, and my health was, not where it had been. And then some things that were I was able to kind of deal with, um, just got out the park, with problems and so on. Because we just kind of knew that it could hit people differently, and
Mhm.
COVID was not, really something that people were finding, one note ways to deal with it.
Mhm.
And I just looked at it like this time seemed like the weirdest time. I would never have done it if I was just listening to myself. But with listening to God, and knowing I spent some time with Him, uninterrupted time, but never a 0%, because people were still in my ear. My job, people were concerned about I wasn't improving. I just knew it was a gamble I was willing to take, because I think sometimes when you reach kind of almost like a rock bottom,
Mhm.
in some way, shape, or form, that's almost an interesting place to be. I wouldn't recommend doing that every day, or, like, not at all. But I feel like if that's naturally where you are, because I was getting to a point where it wasn't making sense anymore. I looked at that as, this doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't have to.
Mhm.
And that may be why I need to do it, because it's something he's pushing me to. So I just felt like he was going to make provisions for me. He was going to protect me. He was going to open up a door for me, and he did. He did. So I was, in the end. It's always funny. Just give stuff time. Give stuff time. And so some of the people who were giving me a hard time, they're like, "Girl, forget what I said. I get why you did what you did." And I'm like, it wasn't really even my plan, because my plan
Mm.
would never look like that. I don't do those types of things on my own. So it really was not me as much as it was, just a faith leap.
Mhm. That's so beautiful because I think so many of us, God will give a vision to. He will even allow you to see a little bit of it, but it's still your determination of whether you're going to yield, right? Or be
Right.
pushed. Like it's two different things. Either you're gonna yield to it and go, okay, Lord, I'm gonna trust you, or he gonna push you out there.
Oh yeah, you're
I
right about
think you
that.
would rather be yielded. Go ahead and take the nudge and take the first step.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So true.
And so, in your yielding to the move to LA, it's been a couple of years since you've been there now. Has it been worth it?
It has been worth it. I do know, with any time that you make such a big overhaul, or a life change, or a leap of faith, you already know it's going to come with challenges. It's going to come with some days when you're just like, did this make sense? And I knew with making that type of move, I would just have to accept it. So that has been definitely something consistent. But peace is something that's funny, and when you have
Ooh.
it, you just know to move forward with it. And when you don't have peace, then you make other decisions, and you make other moves and things of that nature. And so, yeah, I feel like just with anything in life, you just look to, what can you live with at the end of the day, when it's time to go to sleep? What is it that you can say, you know what, this day went the way it did, and I have peace with it. I'm
Mhm.
gonna sleep well tonight. God is good. He wakes you up, and then the next day occurs. And I just feel like it's one of those things. You just check your peace barometer or something to kind of determine where you need to be.
You have an award-winning mini documentary, 365 Days in LA, which is a personal profile about a Houstonian navigating Hollywood as an inspiring TV writer. What has it felt like to have started, completed, and released a project?
Oh, wow. It felt very complete in some ways. But then almost like you're just getting started, if that
Oh,
makes any
I
sense
love
at
both
all.
of those.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely.
So sometimes I think with some dreams, like we mentioned earlier, you carry some stuff over time. And that particular project was another example of listening to God, not really knowing how it's going to go, but just knowing I need to be obedient. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it in this capacity. And when it goes from pre-production to production and then post-production, and then you set it out into the world to see, I think I have been, it blows my mind, Ashley. It really does. Like, it's one of those things, like when for me personally, just to watch TV so much as a kid and just to dream about that and know how far away that is, especially since we know Houston is amazing. It's an amazing
Mhm.
city, but it does not have the entertainment hub that you want to acknowledge LA and New York for, and even now Atlanta. And I just never thought that, something in that nick of time could happen. But what's funny though, when I did the screening for it, it was a private screening in June of 2022. I invited, many different people I had networked with. They invited some people as well. And they asked me about, like, what do you want to happen with this particular project? And I don't know. Sometimes I'm funny about saying things aloud, and sometimes I say it because I really know what that does.
Mhm.
I remember with no doubt, I said, I want this to be on television.
Ooh.
And just to say that in front of witnesses, nobody from that space, and they were very important people there, very plugged in people there. Nobody from that space, got it there. It came from an outside situation that the opportunity even happened. But I think it was just letting it permeate and letting it just be said, gave it, because I had so much conviction behind why I wanted that to happen, and just God being who He is, and because it might have been a God idea, I think that that's interesting when you see those connectors. So that film will always be confirmation that that move was not a fluke. It wasn't anything, but it needed to happen. So some, childhood dream that He planted in me could manifest.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful because it speaks to, as you said, that childhood dream. And Christ calls us to be childlike, and
Mhm.
just how important it is to hold on to those nuggets that have been planted inside of you, to never give up, and that it's never too late in the perfect season, in due season. If we weep not,
Yeah.
God will bring it to fruition. So I'm so excited for you and for your project. It is an award-winning project. So what was your immediate feeling when you're like, "I won. I won." What was your immediate feeling?
I was I was in tears, and I was trying to hold it together because I'm very sentimental, especially in spaces of creation and around creators. Oh man, that's a synergy that's like no other. You can work a day job, you can work a job, but when you're around creative spirits, it's like you felt like other people won too, because that story is
Mm,
about someone who is under the situation in the beginning and trying to kind of get through it, but eventually can be victorious in some point in fashion, not necessarily by worldly standards,
mhm.
by people who are kingdom builders and things of that nature. And so when I won, I thought it was it was a lot of stuff that came to mind, but I was so happy my mom was there,
Oh.
because this is what's crazy about that. She had this dream a couple of years ago, and her dreams are very weird and scary because half the time, if not all the time, a lot of the stuff she dreams comes true. And so I truly know I'm sensitive to hearing what she dreams about. And I'm also sensitive to people like her who, are very sensitive to the world around us, and then, just have these different inklings. And she had this dream about us walking the red carpet together. And I was just like, I wonder when is that going to happen, because nothing seems close to that in my life. When I'm a teacher, I seem so far away from that, right? And even when I'm doing things locally, like in hometown, Houston projects, yes, you can do that. You can definitely have, I premiered my first web series as a full length feature film back in 2010, and it was an amazing experience. And just
Mhm.
imagine what it could have been if it, if I were from somewhere else, like
Right.
LA or like a New York. It's a difference, right? But fast forward to this 10 years later or so, I'm just like, is this going to be the moment? Before things were leading up to it,
Mhm.
we were kind of all watching each other's films and getting to know each other. So we were just very supportive of each other, and there's a lot of amazing content there at that particular festival. So I just was sitting there just accepting, like whatever, whoever it is, we all know, we all are doing amazing things. And so when I heard that I won, I was just like, oh, this is crazy. Here we go again. Full circle moment, this dream. And she's screaming on the side. She's having my phone because I was like, if anything happens, please record it. Everybody knows I'm trying to record life. And so I'm seeing the phone. I don't know. It's funny. Like somebody took the phone from her so she could have her moment.
Camera just shaking. Just mama, give me the
Yeah,
just
it's like we got you, mom. We got you, mom. And so it was wonderful, and we did get to have that moment where we were on the red carpet together. So that was just kind of one of those um, just prophesying moments where you're just like, this is interesting when these things take place because we know, and you know what she was saying during that trip. She was in tears kind of like before that day. She was thinking about all the stuff that I've done without really it getting anywhere.
Mhm.
And she just had this it was just she was happy to be around creatives because she's an
Yeah.
artist too. Sometimes we'll just work hard to take care of business, but we're artists. So I just say all of that to say it came full circle. So I was just very emotional, but I did get a point out about how it's just never too late. I don't think we hear that enough. We always hear about everything else, but it's never too late to go after your dream and for it to actually happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations.
Thank you.
One of the things with awards is you open yourself for potential praise and potential criticism.
Mhm.
How have you found that you are handling both?
That's a great question. I feel like I embrace the balance. So I'm open ears. You know what I mean? I feel like we always can take in different points of view. That insight from someone else can enhance your insight. And I think, one thing about that particular project, um, I always looked at it like it's a precursor to something else.
Mm.
I haven't really been able to go back to that, initial thing because so many things worked out in a way that I can kind of breathe a little bit more. But originally I saw it as, it could be a documentary, full documentary. It could be a web series and that type of thing. So I just embrace it. I just embrace it. I think a lot of times that's the thing that can kind of stunt someone's growth. But yeah, I just embrace that type of thing.
Yeah, for me, I have found, once you release it, it
Hmm.
is no longer yours.
Exactly. That's so
And you hope you're sincere. For me, I have every time I release a podcast, it is always my hope that it is received with the intention that it was created.
right.
But I also know that that's not my responsibility anymore.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. I can agree with that. That weight is lifted when you have that perspective. It is what it is. It's
Yeah.
a stage that you just pass through.
Absolutely. You spoke about going through the process and being around other creatives and kind of bouncing off of each other, sensing each other's energy. How important is that to have a good community, and have you found your people in LA?
It's funny. I am an outsider in a way. So I love that you can be that in LA. You can be that when you travel. I always think of Langston Hughes and how he traveled and he wrote about the cities he traveled to. And sometimes, that's my assignment to remain. I think the journalism background, the neutral side of it, to see things for what it is.
Mhm.
And you're just an outsider looking in. You may not be as involved in that particular moment, or you may. And so to me, LA, I met a lot of amazing friends and a lot of amazing people. And right now, a lot of things are happening, changes wise, because of the writer strike, because of the actor strike. And we are all in solidarity for you know, different
Mhm.
causes that are being fought for.
Right.
And I think it's even brought it up a notch, the humanness of it right now. Everybody's trying to check in with one another. Everybody's doing what they
Mm.
can do in order to survive. Everybody's fighting in their own different way. And so that's another aspect of it. So, yes, this bright side, right? There's a lot of amazing talent ready to take care of business. But then there's also this pause if we're talking about industry, because people have to fight in order for things to be, in order for there to be a better future, and right,
Mhm.
to be able to really live a sustainable, or have a sustainable career, because some people are
Absolutely.
very blessed and lucky and they've had that, but it's almost nearly impossible,
Mm.
the way that things are set up, to really do what you love, and get paid for it, and get paid fairly for it. Or it's just so many things with that. So what I feel is community is everywhere. I this summer traveled all different places within the US, places that energize me and energize the creative in me. And what I found is creative people find each other. You know what I mean? We
Mm.
have to do that. And so whether it be Atlanta, whether it be New Orleans, whether it be where else was it? New York, Harlem specifically. I feel like I've had conversations with people in these spaces for the idea of, we are each, coming from a different situation, but we're artists and we see that in each other, and we're just trying to empower each other, because there's so many more stories that need to be told. But right now, we're all noticing that there's a crisis that needs to be dealt with, right?
Mhm.
So there's so much work to still be done. It's so much work to still be done, and I do believe that people need to find ways to support creatives in their community, so that that group, we're just stronger than ever, because we rely. Say that you're not an artist, you are an artist, but say that you're not working in that world. I know you've been feeling a certain kind of way with television not really being how it normally is or should be
Mhm.
in our content. And people even in schools take out the first couple of things to go sometimes are the fine arts programs, and that's what keeps people whole. That can serve as so many different ways to aid a lot of problems. Just thinking about how we take care of our creatives, we need to do better with that.
Yeah, that I mean, you are so spot on. And I think, I understand. I work at NASA, so I understand the importance of STEM, of science and math and technology and engineering. But we would be less of a culture, and especially as black people, as black women, the arts are so much of the foundation of who we believe or who we are and what we stand for, how we tell our stories, how we communicate, and how we represent ourselves. And I do not want it to get lost in this. I want to compete. I want to do this, and that. That
Right.
it's the arts are given just as much respect,
Yes.
because without music, which is the soundtrack for all of our lives, it's a very dull life. It's
Yeah,
very dull and colorless.
definitely, definitely.
I want to ask, we talked about the importance of mental health and supporting one another, especially during these tumultuous times as creatives. Have you had a moment where you really had to fight to maintain your mental health?
I think right before I moved to LA, definitely. I think also just seeing the gig culture be more of what is presented as an opportunity,
Mm.
versus, my background is in education. I know what I'm doing for a year. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
No matter what's going on, even if I have my challenges and struggles while teaching, I know that I know what I'm doing for a year. And
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying?
Mhm, absolutely.
From that and go into, here you're working for like 2 weeks, here you're working for like 2 weeks, here you're working for like 4 months, and that's like, woo, you got something for 4 months.
Mhm.
That's as good as gold coming into that, if you're even lucky enough to get that. And that's something I peaked early on. And I'm very transparent, especially when I first moved and just even throughout. And yeah, struggles were just very constant that first year, this even like going into the second year. But I think that that's where your faith comes in. And
Mhm.
also having rules for yourself, um, that's paramount, just to know when your enough is enough. You get what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
when you live right, like you can be in your apartment, but you go outside every day and see the same homeless woman outside. And you know that she didn't come here to be homeless, or she didn't, want to wind up that way.
Mhm.
You also see the mental health crises in that community as well. It's so many things that go through your mind, especially if you don't have a support system out there. So I did not, when I first moved. Of course, you know people, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You you got to really know that you can handle it, and if you can't, you have to find other ways to deal with your situation. So for me, I just kept a very, I would say I was very transparent with myself, you know what I mean? And when I know that it's not making sense, then I know that something else needs to happen, because we do need to make it make sense.
Mm. You are a writer. Do you have a story that you have dreamed of writing or a topic that you have dreamed of writing about?
I feel like I'm in that season right now, just returning back to, some passion projects that they are streamlined, or there's a treatment there, or there's some scenes already there. So it's funny to say, yeah, I would say yes, I do have that, but it's kind of like skeletons in some ways
Mm.
now, But then on the other side of it, I think this season is interesting because it's returning to some adaptations and taking something that, if you know that it was originally written here, but when people read it, they're seeing it here. Maybe it's better for the stage, or maybe it's better for a graphic novel, or maybe it's better for a song. Transmedia has always been something that sparks my interest, and I've worked in that world of just letting stories have different lifelines and different ways and different platforms to play in. So I'm kind of more in that stage where I'm returning to some old IP of mine that has been completed, but now giving it new life in a different territory.
Hmm. I have to ask this because I'm just curious. When you were growing up, and I know you said your mother was a creative, but were you like writing books as a kid too? Or writing like stories? How active was your imagination?
Oh my God. When I say I still have trunks of my journals, I have trunks of magazines that I made up. Now, these are not people that were real. I just made up this world of, these are the celebrities and these are their stories, and,
Wow.
that kind of thing. So I had, those types of, I wrote stories. I didn't finish some stories when I was a kid, of course.
Mhm.
I got to develop that later, but I have a lot of unfinished stories in journals. But I've written, like, how you have your diaries and so,
Mhm.
have a bunch of that. But yeah, I would just write stories. I would create magazines. I would write songs. I would write poems, just whatever. I was the only child for 15 years, so I'm just, when they heard me being quiet, they knew some. They would just peek in on me and just
You
make
okay?
sure
She
I'm okay.
writing. She okay. Leave her alone. Before we close, would love to talk about your company, Will Empower. What do you hope to accomplish with this company?
So it is my film division of Eclectically You Experience. So what I hope to accomplish is to expand it in being an independent company for both. I just want to not only empower indies and creatives who may have to on their own create. I want to create her stories continuously. That's always been, you know, when I started and when I published in 2009, done that since then. So I want to continue to have those women centric stories that we know there are a lot of voids that need to be filled. And so the diversity of women, I want to always celebrate that, the good, the bad, and so on. And I want to work more with this upcoming year. I want to work in the theater and return to that love. And, I've always been early on kind of on stage, but behind the scenes, I do want to partner with some people and produce a stage play. So that will be my first time doing that. So I definitely want to partner with people who have been in the game longer than I have. And so this can be really, really special because there's one piece that didn't get to see the light of day. And people who have read it are like, this needs to be on stage. So this is the time where I'm gearing up for that and finding the perfect fits for that. So Will Empower will expand and not just be. It never was just only films, but it was just projects originally. And
Mhm.
then once I brought it back out, of course, it launched the 365 days in LA, and then soon I'll be able to share some more about when the stage play will be launched and so on. So.
Oh, that's so exciting. It is so inspiring on so many levels, right? Because you are doing the thing you have dreamed of doing, and you are being encouraged and supported. And I hope you feel the love from Houston. Like, keep going, don't stop. You didn't came all the way there now. Now you got to do the work.
Right.
You're there now. You are there. So the final section of the podcast is your journey ahead. So as a creative, as someone who sees things in 3D and it's like her imagination and her mind is different. As you are seeking the Lord for the next phase of your joy journey, would you dare share your hope for yourself, for your businesses over the next 5 years?
Over the next 5 years, wow. That'll make me 45 or 46 because I have a birthday coming up. I would just say it's all about staying rooted and grounded, and then helping other creatives in different ways. I've always had a lot of questions that I'll answer, and I'm right now really wanting to help those who want to publish their own books or those who want to um, do their own thing as far as film. And hopefully, once the stage play happens, I can speak on that. And not so, it's a professional book that I want to write that
Mhm.
will, aid in answering all those questions and being stored there and then some, because that journey just continues to open my eyes to what can help another person not have to work as hard. That's
Mm.
like, if I can do that, that to me is a very fulfilling thing on that professional uh, checklist. But yeah, just honestly, too, to be just whole and just know, you can do a lot. You can do what you want to do. You can do what you dream to do. But even just in not doing something, that to me is also a focus, just being,
Oh.
just really being okay with that. I think the pandemic has taught me a lot. I think even this writer strike has taught me a lot. And there's power in sometimes just really tapping into, your spirit, your soul, and then also what's going on around you, and just being observant and really getting not only your physical house in order, but just keeping that spiritual house in order, because there are a lot of things going on. So I just think of it as just not really so much of a performance goal, but more so of just that inner checklist, just making sure I'm good. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
just as much as important as it hasn't always been, but it's
Mhm.
more important now as it goes on.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder to all of us that we are human beings,
Yeah,
and not just not humans doing things. That to
yeah,
check in with ourselves to make sure that, as you said, that we are rooted, that we are grounded, and
mhm,
that we're operating from a place of intention and
yeah,
not I have to or I should do, but
yeah,
it's I get to do. I
yeah.
get to create, I get to share, I get to spread love, and, I think that's a powerful place to be.
Mhm.
If someone wanted to check out 360 Days in LA or they wanted to, support you and your works, how can they do those things?
Okay, well, they can check out 365 Days in LA on Aspire Television. And so it comes on every month uh, through a show called Urban Indie Film Block. And so that's there. And that exclusively right now is where you can see it. And that will be for the next year and a half. And then for my life, or just, what's going on with Eclectically You Experience, as well as Will Empower Films, and then also the stage play coming up, you can I want to say email me, but you can see from the website everything on Eclectically You Experience. So eclecticallyu.com is my website.
Perfect.
Eclectically You Experience is the business. So it's plenty of social media type stuff going on.
Absolutely. I'll be sure to drop the links to
Okay.
all the things, so that they can definitely check out, support, and keep you lifted in prayer as you continue to change the world one creative adventure after another.
Thank you so
Yeah, this has been a blessing. Thank you so much, sis, for joining the podcast, and sharing your joy journey. I got a feeling we're gonna look back on this in a couple years and be like, oh, that was just the beginning. She was just getting started. She was just getting started. Um, Please, y'all, share this podcast, spread the word, like, subscribe, uh, click the notification bell so you'll be notified every single time a new episode drops every single Thursday. And be sure to drop in the comments how Micole has touched you, how she's inspired you to tap into what those childhood dreams were for you. But until we gather again every single Thursday, may God increase your joy, grant you strength for the journey, and give you the courage to tell your story. Bye, friends.